I stood frozen in the darkened corner of the garage, my fingers trembling as I loaded the last bullet into the revolver. The cold steel felt heavier in my hands than it should have, a weight not of its material but of the choice it symbolized. Through the cracked door leading into the house, her voice reached me, hushed but sharp, her words slicing through the air like a dagger. "Robert and I are planning to have a baby," Emma said, her tone light, almost playful. I could hear her pacing in the kitchen, the soft clink of her wine glass against the counter. "So if you want to keep seeing me, you'll have to use protection." The laugh that followed wasn't hers. It was deeper, rougher, one I didn't recognize. The man's voice was soaked in mockery. "Are you worried that my swimmers are better than your cuckolds?" His words were laced with cruel amusement. "Imagine if he ends up raising my kid. The poor fool wouldn't even know." The revolver clicked as I secured the cylinder, the sound snapping me out of my stunned paralysis. My breath hitched, a flood of emotions surging through me, rage, humiliation, disbelief. I gritted my teeth, trying to silence the roar of my thoughts, and pressed myself against the wall, unseen. My heart thundered as I listened to Emma respond. "Relax," she said, her voice dripping with that same syrupy condescension she'd been using on me for months. "He's too clueless to notice anything. Besides, he's not exactly capable of satisfying me. You know what I mean." My chest burned, each word stoking the fire inside me. She wasn't just betraying me, she was mocking me, degrading me, turning my life into a sick joke for her amusement and his. But it wasn't only anger. It was the sheer absurdity of it all, the years I had spent building a life with her, believing in her. Every anniversary, every inside joke, every whispered promise, it all felt like shattered glass under my feet now. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening on the gun. This wasn't how I envisioned my evening going. Just hours ago, I was setting up a surprise for her, a quiet dinner, candles, music. I wanted to fix whatever had been breaking between us lately. Now, I was the fool standing in the shadows, discovering how irreparably broken it already was. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement in the kitchen. She was leaning against the counter now, her phone in one hand, a smirk playing on her lips. Her companion wasn't in view, but his voice still echoed, low and smug. My thoughts spiraled. How long had this been going on? How many nights had I stayed late at work, thinking she was home waiting for me, while she was actually sneaking around? I clenched my jaw, forcing the questions to the back of my mind. Answers could come later, if they even mattered. Right now, I needed to decide what came next. The world outside the garage felt distant, muffled by the pounding of blood in my ears. My hand trembled as I loosened my grip on the revolver. I couldn't trust myself with it, not yet. I set it down carefully on the workbench beside me, inhaling sharply as if the oxygen itself could steady me. "Focus, Nate. Think," I whispered under my breath. But thinking was impossible with their voices still drifting through the cracked door. "You're so tense, Em," the man said, his voice carrying a sly smirk. "Come here. Let me take your mind off your clueless husband." I couldn't see them, but I didn't need to. The scene played out vividly in my mind, and it took everything in me not to storm in right then and there. Instead, I forced myself to stay still, gripping the edge of the workbench until my knuckles turned white. But then, something shifted. A sound, a sudden knock at the front door. Both their voices went silent. "Who the hell is that?" the man hissed. Emma's heels clicked on the tile as she walked to the front window. "Relax," she said. "It's probably just a delivery." Her silhouette passed by the narrow hallway window as she made her way to the door. But something felt off. The timing. The atmosphere. My gut twisted, and without a second thought, I grabbed the revolver again and crept out of the garage, staying low, staying silent. Through the kitchen, past the flickering light over the stove, I peered around the corner into the living room. The man, tall, broad-shouldered, with slicked-back dark hair, was standing there, arms crossed, wearing an arrogant smirk as if he owned the place. The knock came again, louder this time. Emma flung open the door, and there stood an older man in a suit, Detective Wallace. I knew him. We'd crossed paths a few times through mutual friends. What the hell was he doing here? Mrs. Bennet, Wallace said, tipping his hat. I apologize for showing up unannounced, but we received an anonymous tip about, well, let's just say some questionable activity at this address. Emma froze. Her face went pale for a split second before she plastered on that fake, charming smile I'd seen her use on strangers countless times. Detective, I have no idea what you're talking about. Wallace raised an eyebrow, his sharp gaze flickering past Emma into the living room where the man now stood, arms crossed defensively. Mind if I come in? Wallace asked. Emma hesitated. Actually, it's not a good. Let him in, Emma, I said, stepping out from the shadows of the hallway. Her head snapped towards me, her eyes wide with shock. For a brief moment, her mask cracked, and I saw something raw, a flicker of panic. The man turned to me too, his jaw tightening. Well, Wallace said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. It seems we have the whole party here. Emma recovered quickly, turning to me with a venomous glare. What the hell are you doing creeping around in the dark, Nate? I ignored her and addressed Wallace. What's this about, detective? He sighed, glancing between the three of us. I'll be frank. There's been a report of fraud, financial irregularities connected to offshore accounts. Your wife's name came up, Nate. And it seems, her friend here might be more involved than either of you would like to admit. Emma's face contorted with anger. That's ridiculous. Are you seriously standing here accusing me of something so absurd? Do you have any idea how insulting this is? The man, Robert, I assumed, shifted uncomfortably but kept his mouth shut. His confidence was starting to crack. Emma, I said quietly, my voice trembling with barely contained rage, what the hell is he talking about? She scoffed. Oh, don't act so righteous, Nate. You think you're the perfect husband, but you've been so checked out for months you probably didn't even notice the money disappearing from our accounts. Or were you too busy playing hero at the office to care? I flinched as if she'd slapped me. The audacity, the sheer cruelty in her voice, it was like I was staring at a stranger. Wallace cleared his throat. I'd advise everyone to calm down. But Mrs. Bennet, I need you to come with me for questioning. And you, he said, pointing at Robert, I'll need your information as well. Emma's expression hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line. I'm not going anywhere. But Wallace wasn't asking. He stepped aside and gestured towards the door. Let's not make this any more difficult than it has to be. For a moment, I thought she might run. Her eyes darted between Wallace, Robert, and me. But finally, with an exaggerated sigh, she grabbed her purse and stomped out the door, Robert trailing behind her. The silence left behind was deafening. Wallace turned to me, his expression softening. Nate, whatever's going on here, you'll want to get your affairs in order. This could get messy. I nodded numbly as he left, closing the door behind him. The house felt hollow, like all the air had been sucked out. My wife, a woman I had loved, trusted, built a life with, was walking into a police investigation, and I still didn't have all the pieces. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence of my once peaceful home. The faint scent of Emma's perfume still lingered in the air, a sharp floral scent that now made my stomach turn. My hands were trembling, and the revolver felt heavier than ever. I set it down on the coffee table with a dull thud and collapsed onto the couch. The weight of everything hit me at once, the betrayal, the lies, the mockery, and now a police investigation. Offshore accounts? Fraud? It felt like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. This wasn't my life. It couldn't be. My phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. Without thinking, I answered. Nate, Emma's voice came through, sharp and frantic. Listen to me carefully. Don't believe anything Wallace tells you. He's bluffing. They have nothing on me. And whatever you do, don't look at the bank statements. Don't. The call cut off. I stared at the screen, the call ended, message flashing back at me. Don't look at the bank statements. Oh, Emma, if you wanted me to not do something, telling me directly was probably the worst strategy you could have chosen. I practically ran to the study. My laptop was still on the desk where I'd left it earlier. With shaking hands, I logged into our joint bank account. At first glance, everything looked normal: bills paid, a modest savings account, standard transactions. But then I noticed something odd. A separate account. One I'd never seen before. It was buried deep in the transaction history, masked under vague labels like consulting fees and miscellaneous transfers. My stomach clenched as I clicked on it. $250,000. Gone. Over the past year. Transferred to an offshore account under her name. I leaned back in my chair, running a hand through my hair. My vision blurred with rage. While I'd been working overtime, skipping vacations, sacrificing nights and weekends to make sure we were financially secure, she had been funneling money into some secret account. A noise from the hallway made me snap my head up. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. I grabbed the revolver again and stood, inching towards the door. Who's there? I called out. No response. The floor creaked again. Every nerve in my body was on edge as I stepped into the hallway, revolver raised. But instead of an intruder, I was met with the sight of Robert. Standing there in my house, leaning casually against the wall, his hands stuffed into the pockets of his leather jacket. Nice place you've got here, Nate, he said, a smug grin spreading across his face. Cozy. What the hell are you doing here? I barked, the revolver aimed squarely at his chest. He raised his hands in mock surrender, but that smirk never left his face. Easy there, cowboy. I just came to have a little chat. No need to get all trigger happy. How did you even get in? Front door was unlocked. You really should be more careful, Nate. I was seething now, my finger twitching on the trigger. You've got 5 seconds to explain why you're here before I make sure you never walk out that door. Robert sighed and shook his head. Relax, man. Emma asked me to stop by. Said you might be emotional after tonight's little surprise. Oh, you mean the part where I found out my wife's been cheating on me and stealing our money? Yeah, I'd say I'm feeling pretty emotional. He clicked his tongue and stepped closer. I tightened my grip on the gun. You don't get it, Nate. Emma's not coming back. She's done with you. And honestly, she was done with you a long time ago. You were just too blind to see it. But here's the thing, you can still walk away from this with your pride intact. Sign the divorce papers when they come, and don't dig any deeper. Trust me, you don't want to know everything. His words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Why should I trust anything you have to say? I spat. Robert smirked again, taking another step forward. Because I'm giving you an out, Nate. Take it. Go live your boring little life somewhere far away from this mess. And then he turned his back to me and started walking towards the front door, his boots clicking against the hardwood floor. I wanted to shoot him right then and there. Every muscle in my body screamed for revenge, for justice, for something. But I didn't pull the trigger. I just stood there, gun trembling in my hands, watching him walk out the door like he owned the place. As the door slammed shut, the house fell silent again. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I set the revolver down on the dining table and grabbed my phone. There was one person I could still call, my old college friend, Mark. A lawyer. One of the best. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Nate? It's late, man. Everything okay? No, Mark. Everything's not okay. What happened? I exhaled, staring at the closed front door. I need a lawyer. And I need one now. Mark's tone shifted immediately. Say no more. I'm on my way. As I hung up, something inside me solidified, a cold, unyielding resolve. Emma and Robert thought they'd played me. Thought I'd roll over and accept this nightmare they'd built around me. But they were wrong. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Mark arrived just after midnight, dressed in a wrinkled hoodie and sweatpants, a leather briefcase in one hand and a travel mug of coffee in the other. He stepped into the dimly lit living room, glanced at the revolver sitting on the table, and let out a low whistle. Well, Nate, he said, setting his mug down and loosening his hoodie strings. When you said it was serious, I didn't think we were talking revolver on the table at midnight serious. I didn't respond. I was too busy pacing the floor, my thoughts racing in endless circles. Mark's humor faded as he set down his briefcase and gestured for me to sit. All right, start from the beginning, he said, flipping open a notepad. I unloaded everything. Emma's affair, the offshore accounts, the detective's visit, Robert's intrusion into my home. Every word felt like bile being scraped from the back of my throat. By the time I was done, Mark's pen was still, his brow furrowed in thought. This is a lot, he said finally, tapping the pen against his chin. But here's the thing, Nate. You're in a better position than you realize. Financial fraud tied to your wife? That's a huge red flag for divorce court. Judges don't take kindly to spouses who siphon marital assets into offshore accounts. But you need evidence. Cold, hard proof. I gestured to the laptop still open on the desk. I found the offshore account. Transfers made over months. It's all right there. Mark shook his head. That's a start, but it's not enough. We need transaction histories, communications, emails. And most importantly, we need to know why. Was it just greed? Or is there something else at play? His words hung heavy in the air. The why. That's what was eating me alive. Was Emma just another gold-digging manipulator, or was there something deeper, something more dangerous? Mark leaned back on the couch. Look, Nate, here's my advice, stay cool. Don't confront her directly yet. Don't go looking for Robert, and for God's sake, don't pull that trigger unless your life depends on it. Let me start digging. I'll hire a forensic accountant first thing in the morning. You focus on keeping your head clear. I nodded numbly, though every fiber of my being wanted action, revenge, justice, something. Mark stood and patted my shoulder. Get some sleep, man. Tomorrow, we go to war. But sleep wasn't an option. The sun crept over the horizon as I sat in the dining room, staring at Emma's empty seat across the table. The silence of the house was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the wooden floor. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at the Hollow Diner. 9 a.m. Come alone. E. Emma. My pulse spiked as I stared at the message. Alone? Why? Was this a trap? Or was she trying to explain herself? I grabbed my jacket and keys and headed out the door. The Hollow Diner was one of those faded relics of the past, cracked vinyl booths, flickering neon lights, and the faint smell of burnt coffee clinging to everything. Emma was seated in the farthest corner booth, wearing oversized sunglasses and a hooded sweatshirt. When she saw me approach, she didn't smile. Didn't gesture for me to sit. Her face was cold, impassive. I slid into the seat across from her. "Nate," she said flatly. "Emma." We sat in silence for a moment before she sighed and pulled down her sunglasses. Her eyes were red-rimmed, dark circles etched under them. "Why are we here, Emma?" I asked, my voice low but firm. She glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. "Listen to me carefully, Nate. You need to stop digging. Stop looking into the accounts, stop talking to people like Mark, and just walk away." I blinked. "Walk away? Are you serious right now? After everything you've done? The lies, the betrayal, the fraud?" She flinched slightly but recovered quickly. "It's bigger than you think. You're in over your head. Robert isn't just some guy. He's dangerous. You don't know what he's capable of." Is that supposed to scare me? Because it doesn't. Emma leaned forward, her voice trembling. "You should be scared." "I'm scared, Nate. You think this was about us? About some stupid affair?" "No. Robert isn't just my affair partner. He's—" A sharp crack interrupted her. A bullet shattered the window beside us, sending glass shards raining down over the table. Emma screamed, and I grabbed her, dragging her down onto the floor. Chaos erupted in the diner, shouts, screams, the sound of footsteps scrambling. Another bullet hit the metal frame of the booth above us. "Stay down," I barked as I peered over the edge of the table. Through the broken window, I caught a glimpse of a man in a dark hoodie sprinting towards a black sedan. The car screeched away, tires kicking up dust and gravel as it disappeared down the road. Emma was sobbing now, clutching her knees, her entire body trembling. "Who was that?" I demanded, grabbing her by the shoulders. "Who the hell just tried to kill us, Emma?" But she couldn't answer. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The sound of distant police sirens filled the air as the diner staff ushered panicked customers towards the exits. I sat back on the floor, my ears ringing, my chest heaving with adrenaline. Whatever I thought I knew about this situation, it was worse. Far worse. And now, I wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife and stolen money. This was something else entirely. Something deadly. The wail of police sirens grew louder as squad cars screeched into the parking lot of the Hollow Diner. Officers spilled out, guns drawn, barking orders at terrified customers and shell-shocked staff. Emma was still on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, her face buried in trembling hands. "Nate Evans?" A cop with a buzz cut and a stone-cold face approached me, his hand resting on his holstered weapon. "Yeah, that's me." My voice came out hoarse. "Are you injured?" "No. Neither of us are." He nodded sharply and signaled for two officers to escort Emma outside. She didn't resist, her legs wobbling as she was helped to her feet. "Mr. Evans, I'm Detective Harris. We've got questions, and we need answers now." The diner was now a crime scene, yellow tape sealing us inside a cocoon of broken glass and spilled coffee. Harris motioned for me to sit in one of the intact booths, his sharp eyes scanning me like I was already guilty of something. "What happened here?" he asked. I recounted the text, the meeting, the shots, every detail etched into my mind like fresh scars. Harris took notes but said nothing, his face an unreadable mask. "Do you have any idea who could have done this? Any enemies? Someone with a motive?" "Robert." I didn't hesitate. "His name is Robert. I don't even know his last name. He's my wife's acquaintance." "Acquaintance?" Harris raised an eyebrow. I clenched my fists. "Her affair partner, okay? And from what little I know, he's not just some sleazebag she met at a bar. He's dangerous. She said as much herself." Harris scribbled something down. And where's your wife now? I gestured toward the parking lot. Outside, with your officers. Harris leaned in closer. Listen, Mr. Evans, if your wife is tangled up with someone dangerous, and if this Robert guy is as serious as you're suggesting, then you need to cooperate fully. No secrets. No half-truths. Because from where I'm sitting, this situation just went from domestic dispute to organized crime territory. Organized crime. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Do I need protection? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Harris sighed. It's not you I'm worried about right now, it's your wife. Emma and I were escorted separately to the police station. They put me in a cramped interrogation room that smelled like sweat and stale coffee. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the one-way glass, wondering if Emma was in the room next to me spilling her guts, or spinning another web of lies. After what felt like hours, Harris walked back in and dropped a manila folder on the table in front of me. Nate, he said, his voice low and serious. We pulled some initial records based on what you told us about the offshore accounts. Turns out your wife has been in contact with a man named Robert Hale. He's a known associate of some unsavory people. Weapons trafficking. Money laundering. You name it. I froze. Weapons trafficking? Money laundering? This wasn't just some midlife crisis fling. Harris continued, those offshore accounts weren't just a nest egg for her. They were being used to move money. And here's the kicker, your name is on some of the documents, Nate. Whether you knew about it or not, you're involved. My stomach dropped. No. No way. I didn't sign anything. I didn't. It doesn't matter, Nate. Harris barked, slamming his hand on the table. All it takes is a forged signature or a fake authorization. You could be on the hook for federal charges unless we figure out how deep this goes and fast. I slumped back in the chair, my head spinning. And your wife? I croaked. What happens to her? Harris crossed his arms. She's not talking. But she's scared, Nate. Really scared. And people like Robert Hale don't leave loose ends. Hours later, they finally let me go. Mark was waiting for me outside the station, leaning against his car, his face pale with worry. Nate, he said as I approached. This is way worse than I thought. No kidding, I muttered. We need to act fast. I've got a forensic accountant digging into those offshore accounts, but it'll take time. And time isn't something we have right now. I nodded and rubbed my temples. What do I do, Mark? What the hell do I do? He looked me dead in the eye. You stay alive. You don't contact Emma unless absolutely necessary. You let me handle the financial side. And Nate, if Robert comes sniffing around again, you call me. Don't play hero. As we drove back to my house, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hesitated before answering. Hello? Nate, Emma's voice came through, ragged and breathless. I messed up. I messed up so badly, and now they're coming for me. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Emma, where are you? I interrupted, my heart hammering in my chest. I can't tell you. If they think I've talked to you, you'll be in danger too. Just promise me you won't look for me. Promise me. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, cold dread spreading through me. Nate? Mark asked from the driver's seat. What happened? She's running, Mark. And something tells me she's not going to make it very far. The night outside the car window seemed darker than usual, like the world itself was closing in. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was survival. And the game had only just begun. The night clung to me like a second skin as Mark's car sped down the empty highway. The faint glow of streetlights cast fleeting shadows across his face, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. Emma's voice still echoed in my ears, "I messed up. I messed up so badly, and now they're coming for me." Mark broke the silence. "We can't just sit on this, Nate. If Emma's running, she's either scared out of her mind or she knows something that could blow this whole thing wide open. Either way, she's in serious danger." I stared out the window, my fists clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. "Mark, what if she doesn't make it? What if Robert or whoever else is involved catches up to her before we can do anything?" He sighed deeply. "That's a real possibility. But right now, we have two priorities, keeping you alive and figuring out what the hell Emma knows. If we can crack that, we might be able to get ahead of this thing." The car fell silent again as Mark made a sharp turn onto a gravel road. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To my office. I have resources there, tools we can use to track Emma's movements and dig deeper into those accounts." Mark's office was in an unassuming strip mall, an old insurance firm repurposed into his legal fortress. The place smelled of stale coffee and paper, with stacks of manila folders threatening to topple off every available surface. Mark powered up his laptop, the bluish glow casting sharp shadows across his face. "All right," he said, cracking his knuckles. "Let's start with the offshore accounts. If Emma's been moving money recently, there might be a digital trail. Bank records, wire transfers, something." I stood behind him, my breath shallow, watching strings of numbers and encrypted files scroll across the screen. After several minutes, Mark froze. "Bingo." "What? What did you find?" He turned the laptop towards me. On the screen was a series of recent wire transfers, massive amounts of money moving between unfamiliar accounts, some flagged with timestamps as recent as this morning. "Emma's still moving money," Mark said grimly. "And she's not being subtle about it." "Where's it going?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. "Some of it went to a holding account in the Caymans. But here, this last transfer." Mark pointed at the screen. "It's domestic. Wired to an account registered to a Jacob Caldwell." "Who the hell is Jacob Caldwell?" "No idea. But it's someone here in the States, and it's recent. If we can track him down, we might find Emma, or at least a clue to where she's headed." Mark grabbed his phone. "I'll make some calls. Get a private investigator on this Caldwell guy. In the meantime, you need to go home, Nate. Lock your doors, stay off your phone, and don't open the door for anyone unless it's me." But the thought of going home to that empty house, with its echoes of betrayal and the suffocating silence, made my skin crawl. Back at the house, I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the revolver on the coffee table. The weight of everything pressed down on me, the affair, the offshore accounts, the hitman-level chaos that had erupted from what started as suspicion over late-night texts. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and took a long sip, the burn doing little to settle my nerves. The silence was shattered by the sound of my front door creaking open. I froze, the glass halfway to my lips. "Mark?" I called out cautiously. No answer. I grabbed the revolver with trembling hands and crept toward the hallway. The faint sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoed through the house. "Who's there?" I barked, my voice cracking with fear and adrenaline. A shadow moved across the dim light of the hallway, and then a voice, low, gravelly, and unmistakably male. "Easy there, Nate. No need for that. Robert." He stepped into the light, hands casually in the pockets of his leather jacket, a smirk pulling at the corner of his mouth. He looked exactly how I'd imagined him, arrogant, dangerous, and cold. "How the hell did you get in here?" I hissed, the gun trembling in my hand. He chuckled softly. "Oh, come on now. A deadbolt isn't going to stop someone like me." Relax, Nate. I'm not here to kill you. Then why are you here? His smirk disappeared, and his eyes hardened. Emma. Where is she? I tightened my grip on the revolver. I don't know. Robert stepped closer, his gaze locked onto mine. You're lying. And trust me, Nate, lying to me is not a smart move. I don't know where she is. I shouted, my voice shaking. She called me. Said she was running. That's all I know. For a moment, the two of us stood there, locked in a silent standoff. Then Robert sighed, pulling a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket and tossing it onto the floor between us. That's my number, Nate. If Emma contacts you again, you call me. Immediately. Because if you don't, let's just say you won't like what happens next. With that, he turned and walked back down the hallway, his boots echoing with every step. At the door, he glanced back over his shoulder. Oh, and Nate? Next time, keep the safety off. You were holding that thing like a water pistol. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving me alone with the oppressive silence once again. I collapsed onto the floor, the revolver clattering beside me. My body was trembling uncontrollably, my breath shallow and ragged. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was life or death. And somehow, Emma was at the center of it all. The silence after Robert left felt suffocating, pressing against me from all sides. My house, once a refuge, now felt like a crime scene, a ticking time bomb ready to explode. The paper with Robert's number sat on the floor like a snake waiting to strike. I couldn't stay here. Every creak of the wood, every shadow across the window felt like a threat. Grabbing my jacket, phone, and the revolver, I bolted out the front door. I needed somewhere, anywhere, safe. I ended up back at Mark's office. It was past midnight, but his light was still on. The man was hunched over his laptop, a cold cup of coffee at his elbow, his tie loosened, and his eyes bloodshot. Nate, he said, looking up. You look like hell. Robert was in my house, Mark. His face went pale. He what? He walked in like he owned the place. Demanded to know where Emma was. Left me his number and told me to call if I heard from her again. Mark cursed under his breath, rubbing his temples. This is spiraling out of control. I've got my investigator working on Jacob Caldwell. But Nate, if Robert's this bold, he's either desperate, or he's already got nothing to lose. I sank into the chair across from him, my head in my hands. Mark, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Every hour feels like another step closer to disaster. Mark paused, his eyes fixed on the screen. Wait, we might have something. He turned the laptop towards me. On the screen was a series of phone records connected to Emma's last wire transfer. She made a call about an hour ago, Mark said. To a burner phone registered in a place called Red Pine Motel. It's 2 hours from here, middle of nowhere. A map was pulled up, showing the isolated motel sitting off a winding back road surrounded by dense woods. That's her, I said, the pit in my stomach growing heavier. That's where she's hiding. Mark leaned back in his chair. What's the plan, Nate? You going after her? I nodded. I have to. I need answers, Mark. And if Robert's looking for her, she doesn't have much time. Nate, listen to me, Mark said, his voice serious. If you go there, you need to understand something. This isn't about saving your marriage anymore. This isn't about trust or love or any of that crap. This is about survival. Don't hesitate if things go south. Do you understand me? I met his gaze, my knuckles white around the revolver in my hand. I understand. The drive to Red Pine Motel was a blur of dark roads and haunting thoughts. The sky was ink black, and the headlights of my car barely cut through the fog that hugged the pavement. My phone buzzed several times, but I ignored it, probably Mark, probably warnings. When I finally pulled into the cracked gravel lot of the motel, it looked exactly like every horror movie cliché ever made. A flickering neon vacancy sign. Peeling paint on faded doors. A lone light glowing from one of the corner rooms. I killed the engine and stepped out, the revolver tucked into my waistband. The cold night air bit at my skin as I crept toward the lit room. The door was slightly ajar. "Emma?" I whispered, pushing it open. She was there. Sitting on the edge of the sagging motel bed, wearing a hoodie and jeans, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. "Nate," she said, her voice cracking. I closed the door behind me and locked it. "Emma, what the hell is going on? Who is Robert? What have you gotten us into?" She buried her face in her hands, shaking with quiet sobs. "I never wanted it to go this far. I thought I could fix it, Nate. I thought I could control it." "Control what, Emma? Offshore accounts? Money laundering? Robert Hale showing up in my house threatening me?" She flinched at his name. I didn't know who he really was when it started. He was charming, powerful, he said he could help us with the debt, with everything. But it was a lie. He pulled me into something I couldn't get out of, and then I was trapped. I thought if I played along, if I kept moving the money, I could find a way out. "And the baby thing, Emma?" My voice cracked, the words bitter on my tongue. She froze, her eyes wide. "You heard that?" "Yeah, I did. Every disgusting word of it." Tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't find an ounce of sympathy left in me. "Why didn't you come to me, Emma? Why didn't you trust me?" She opened her mouth to speak, but a loud thud came from outside the motel room. Both of us froze. "Did you tell anyone you were here?" I asked, my voice low. "No. No one." Another thud. Then footsteps. I drew the revolver and motioned for Emma to get down. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. The doorknob rattled. "Emma," I whispered. "Get in the bathroom. Lock the door. Now." She scrambled off the bed and disappeared behind the bathroom door just as the motel door burst open. A man stepped in, a hulking figure silhouetted against the dim light from outside. It wasn't Robert. It was someone worse. He had a shotgun in one hand, a twisted smirk on his face. Well, he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Looks like the lovebirds are having a reunion." Before I could react, he raised the shotgun. I dove to the side just as the blast shattered the night, sending wood splinters and drywall flying. The air was thick with smoke and adrenaline as I scrambled to my feet, revolver in hand. The man cocked the shotgun again, a cruel grin splitting his face. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I squeezed the trigger. Bang! He staggered backward, clutching his side as blood seeped through his shirt. He dropped the shotgun and crumpled to the floor, his breath ragged. The bathroom door creaked open, and Emma peeked out, her face pale with terror. "Nate, what do we do now?" I stood there, staring at the bleeding man on the floor, my hands still shaking from the gunshot. "We run, Emma," I said, my voice hollow. "We run, and we don't stop until we find a way out of this nightmare." But deep down, I knew, there was no way out. Not anymore. The cold night air bit into my skin as Emma and I stumbled out of the motel room, our breaths ragged and heavy. My revolver felt like a dead weight in my trembling hand, and the coppery scent of blood clung to me like a curse. Behind us, the man I had shot lay still, his lifeless eyes staring at nothing. The gravel crunched beneath our feet as we hurried to my car. Emma clutched her hoodie tight around herself, her face pale and streaked with tears. "Nate, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Where do we go? I didn't answer. My mind was racing, flashing images of Robert, the offshore accounts, and the shotgun blast that nearly ended me. But most of all, I couldn't stop thinking about how everything we'd been through had been built on a foundation of lies and betrayal. I started the engine, the roar breaking the eerie silence. We drive. We get out of here. The dark road stretched endlessly in front of us, headlights cutting through the thick fog. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The silence was oppressive, filled with unspoken words and the weight of everything that had led us here. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice trembling. Nate. I'm so sorry. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Sorry doesn't even begin to cover it, Emma. You lied to me. You used me. And now we're running from something I still don't fully understand. I didn't want any of this, she said, her voice breaking. I was scared. I thought I could fix it before you found out. But it just kept getting worse. Robert, he's not just some man, Nate. He's dangerous. He's connected to people who can make us disappear without a trace. Then why didn't you just leave? I snapped, my voice raw with anger and exhaustion. Why didn't you pack a bag and go instead of dragging me into this mess? She looked at me, her tear-streaked face illuminated by the glow of the dashboard lights. Because I was weak. Because part of me thought I could still make it right. The silence returned, heavier this time. About an hour later, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen, Mark. I answered on speakerphone. Mark, what is it? Nate, listen to me carefully. I found Jacob Caldwell. He's dead. Someone got to him before my investigator did. And the worst part? The account Emma wired the money to, it's been cleaned out. Emma let out a sharp gasp. Mark continued. Nate, whatever Emma knows, whatever she was running from, it's not over. Robert is still out there, and now whoever is behind this is getting desperate. I ran a hand down my face, my pulse hammering in my ears. Mark, what do we do? Mark hesitated. You don't stop, Nate. You keep moving. I'll do what I can from here, but right now, you're on your own. The call ended, and I felt a hollow emptiness settle in my chest. We stopped at an abandoned gas station off the highway. The flickering light above the pumps cast strange shadows across the cracked concrete. Emma was leaning against the car, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Nate, what are we going to do? She asked softly. I stared at her for a long moment. My wife. The woman I had once trusted with every part of me. The same woman who had shattered everything we had built with her lies. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The danger was real, and whatever came next, we were stuck in it together. We end this, Emma, I said firmly. We stop running. We stop hiding. If Robert wants us, if these people want us, then we bring the fight to them. Her eyes went wide. Nate, you can't. I'm done being scared, I said, my voice steady. I'm done looking over my shoulder. If we don't do something now, we'll spend the rest of our lives running, or worse. Emma swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number Robert had left me. It rang twice before he picked up. Well, Nate, Robert said smoothly. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. I haven't forgotten, I said coldly. Let's meet. Just you and me. No games, no middlemen. You want Emma? You want the money? Fine. But we end this tonight. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. Brave. Stupid, but brave. All right, Nate. You want to dance? Meet me at the old steel mill off Route 9. Midnight. And bring Emma. The line went dead. Emma was staring at me, her face frozen with fear. "Nate, this is a trap. You know it's a trap." I nodded. "Yeah. But it's our only shot." The steel mill was a rusted skeleton of metal and shadows, looming against the night sky. Emma stayed close behind me as we stepped into the cavernous structure, our footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. Robert was there, standing under a single hanging light, his hands casually in his pockets. 2 men flanked him, both armed. "Nate," Robert said, flashing that smug smile. "Emma. So nice of you to join us." "Let her go," I said, leveling my revolver at him. "This ends with me and you." Robert chuckled. "Oh, Nate. This was never about Emma. This was about power. About control. And you? You were just a loose end." Everything happened in an instant. One of Robert's men reached for his gun, and I fired first. The sound of gunshots ricocheted through the mill as chaos erupted. Emma screamed, diving behind a pile of metal beams. Robert lunged at me, a knife flashing in his hand. We collided, and the knife sliced across my shoulder. Pain flared white-hot, but I didn't let go of the revolver. I shoved him backward, aimed, and pulled the trigger. The shot hit him square in the chest. Robert staggered, his eyes wide with shock, before collapsing to the ground. Silence filled the mill, broken only by the distant drip of water and Emma's muffled sobs. It was over. The sun was rising as Emma and I walked away from the steel mill, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. "Where do we go now?" she asked softly. I looked at her, the weight of everything hanging heavy in my chest. "Forward, Emma," I said. We go forward. The road stretched ahead of us, long, uncertain, and filled with shadows. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. And with that, we disappeared into the horizon. The end.